2016 has been a great year for university research projects that not only engage with the public through the fieldwork that helps deliver them, but also makes a tangible difference to the lives of real people up and down the country. In the second of the biannual Engage Awards, organised and run by the National Coordinating Centre for Public Engagement, 18 varied, inspiring and significant projects spanning 6 categories were nominated at the NCCPE's 2-day Public Engagement Conference in Bristol. The Engage Conference looked at how higher education can continue to work with external partners to deliver successful research, and the nominees discovered at the award ceremony held on the first evening whether their project had won. The winner of the Science, Technology, Engineering and Mathematics category of the awards, or STEM, was a South London festival which uses a virtual natural disaster to re-engage young people with science. Run as a partnership between the universities of Middlesex and Greenwich, SMASHFestUK is an immersive experience that takes place in and around Deptford. The judges said of the entry, this team took a concept that lots of people talk about and turned it on its head. They challenged concepts of hard to reach and worked with young people to create a festival everyone wanted to be part of. Disaster-led, this project was far from it. Well, I caught up with Lindsay Keith from the University of Greenwich and Wyn Griffiths from the University of Middlesex and got them to explain a bit more. I'm pretty sure that even though I don't live in Deptford, I ought to have heard about SMASHFest, but I haven't. So tell me, what is it? It sounds amazing.
So it's a multidisciplinary festival. It was specifically founded in order to widen participation and increase diversity in science and the arts. We take a kind of semi-immersive approach to everything. Each year there are in excess of 40 individual events, interactives, theatre performances, games, experiments, etc., etc. And it was all designed primarily to be led by entertainment and having its science by stealth, really.
So how did you come up with the concept?
We'd long been thinking about how to engage a wide range of audiences with something akin to science festivals, arts festivals that normally fall outside of their access routes. And we were thinking around the idea of a fringe festival, something fairly anarchic, something chaotic, but also with a lot of participation from the community. And we were particularly interested in challenging, really, the phrase hard to reach audiences and working out whether this was in fact the case, which it's not. These audiences are underserved and underrepresented. They're not hard to reach. It's just you have to go to them rather than expect them to travel for an hour and a half to your particular institution or your particular festival. Falls outside of their area. So that was the genesis of what we wanted to do and why we wanted to do it. And then in discussion, we thought, discussion with our audiences and amongst our teams and collaborators, we came up with the idea of starting with a big story. And the big story was a global threat to humanity, something that could capture everybody. Taking the inspiration from disaster movies, so you get something that's very popular, very compelling, that people understand, and you can build around that. You can build all your activities, you can build the unfolding experience around that. So each year we start with a gigantic threat that's going to destroy the world. First year was an asteroid, second year was a solar storm, which actually left the world intact, but threw us back to the mechanical age and destroyed the world in a more subtle way. This year is a supervolcano, unexpectedly, and there turns out to be a huge magma chamber below Lewisham, which nobody had spotted before. I know. It's neglectful. I can't believe they let that one slip by. All the time people have been watching Yellowstone, and there it was under Lewisham. So that's going to go up in February 2017, so we have to work out how we're going to prepare for that, how we understand what's going to happen, and how possibly we rebuild afterwards when the world is destroyed. Mostly destroyed, sorry.
Mostly destroyed, yeah. I'm desperate to know what happens, but of course if you tell me, you just ruin the whole concept of the festival, don't you? So I'll have to wait and come. Is it primarily to get younger people interested in science, or is it for everybody?
It came out of off the back of a really brilliant study that was done by King's College in 2014 called the Aspire Study, which looked at young people's attitudes to future careers and study in STEM subjects. And some of the learning that came out of that was specifically about these underrepresented groups, and that in some communities, especially the black community, science was considered as something that was not for me. And we really wanted to try and see whether that was a changeable opinion. So we designed SMASHFest with the idea of being able to engage people who in no way already identify as being science fans. I mean, obviously, hopefully, identifies with science fans as well, but that we deliberately didn't brand it a science festival because we didn't want people to be put off coming, which if they don't identify with science, they would be. And that was also the reason why we chose this very strong narrative and disaster scenario as a theme to kind of get people engaged with the storyline, and therefore, and essentially it's project-based learning, which it's been shown in a big study in the United States has better learning outcomes for young people. So we're taking a project-based learning approach, and we are using sort of evidence-based methodologies, and we're using entertainment as a driver to try and engage those young people in communities that are at risk of not being engaged by science because of pre-existing attitudes.
Well, can I just extend that a little bit? So our attending audience are largely young people and families, so primary school through secondary school. But what we realised is we wanted to target more broadly than that and older groups than that. But because it was seen as a family festival, it wasn't therefore cool enough for teenagers to come. So after the first year, we realised that our evaluations showed that. So we're now involving 16 to 18-year-olds as young science explainers. We call them a scheme, that they take part in building the festival, facilitating the festival. We're also bringing in adults from various universities and community groups as public engagers as well. So we're trying to have this kind of 360-degree, whatever it is, training and experience development for all different age groups and different audiences.
So you're actually using your target audience almost as tour guides?
Yes.
Yes, yeah. To come and see the end of the world. It's a very short tour.
It's what is great is the feedback. We just piloted the Young Science Explainers scheme last year, and we're expanding on it this year. But one of the great things about it was the feedback that we got. You know, there were some quotes from the young adults that were simply like, you know, I met a scientist, I discovered that scientist was completely normal like me, and moreover, this is something that I can do too. So it's literally, it has changed the attitude from, to it is for you, or it is for me, which is what we were hoping.
I mean, I see myself as one of these hard-to-reach audiences, really, because when I was at school, which was a very, very long time ago, in fact, when dinosaurs still roamed the earth, I had science teachers who talked to me about resistors and chlorophyll and Bunsen burners, and I can't even remember my any of the periodic table, frankly. It strikes me that this would be a really good way of teaching in schools, or am I just being really simplistic?
No, not at all. that the study, which was funded by the National Science Foundation, in the US, did an amazing control trial of different teaching approaches in school, and showed that the project-based learning was absolutely, superior to traditional learning methods. The difficulty, and a lot of primary schools do this already, which is brilliant. The difficulty is secondary schools, is how it's so embedded in that siloed system of you do your physics and you do your chemistry and you do your biology. I think the idea of how you go about changing that system to a project-based one is just such a big question, it's difficult to answer.
But why is it so difficult? So when I was at primary, one of my enduring memories of being at primary school was we had to build a volcano, which is kind of apt given the conversation we're having now. And it was going to be judged by the headmaster, so we didn't have head teachers in those days, we had headmasters and headmistresses. And we worked in pairs. We built it out of papier-mâché. We had red light in it. You switched on, and we had somebody Coca-Cola and vinegar or something, and it all exploded. It was brilliant, and it kind of stuck with me. But I lost interest completely in science because it was just too remote from the way in which I enjoyed learning. So I just don't understand why it's so hard to get schools to buy into that project learning.
I don't think it is for primary school. It's it's almost the standard method in primary school, but in secondary school the drivers are such that they've got policy leading in terms of subject division, subject choice, and that structure has been imposed and is continued to be supported, and the whole movement towards school league tables and being able to quantify and tick box this subject, that subject actually forces secondary school teachers further away from the possibility of doing the cross-disciplinary learning and project-based learning, and it just makes it really difficult.
I think it needs to be a policy change that comes from the top, because I think it's the will is there, at the grassroots level, but the system isn't supporting it at the moment. But what you were just saying, was absolutely classic. Of like when young people leave primary school, the majority of them will still identify with science as being cool and good and fun and interesting. By the time they reach GCSE level, the majority of them do not support that view anymore. So something's going wrong there, and it's not the teacher's fault. Absolutely no way. I think it is the way that we teach.
I'm not proud of this, but I had a multiple choice biology CSE because I never got to do O-level. And I'm not exaggerating. I looked at the paper and I put my head on my arms and I went to sleep because there was absolutely no point in me doing it. And I'd already kind of in my head decided it was a lost cause. But what's the legacy of SMASHFest? Is it going to be that you take all of the fine learnings over the last 3 years, if we include February of next year, and whatever comes, and you take it to government and you say, look, these were the outcomes, this was the evaluation, surely this makes sense for us to implement this in schools, in our formal education policy, or where does SMASHFest go?
I think that would be lovely. There's somewhere to aim for, but it's quite a long way off. Our next stage, we've been creating a kind of academic model of the engagement methods that we've been using. We've been using that, so we call it the NCCPE model. Wonderful academic acronyms everywhere. And the next stage, from the Engage conference, one of the things we want to do is speak to a number of different people working in public engagement, various universities, and build a next level model where we are creating another academic acronym called the So Much model. We're talking about social organisations, museums, universities as community hubs. So taking these embedded, geographically placed institutions outside of their own walls and going out into the community. So our next plans, our plans for what we do next, are to try and build up these partnerships, build up these consortiums, take models that they might have used. SMASHFest model is one way of doing it, but there are lots of other groups doing similar-ish things about breaking down the barriers and walls and getting out into communities, and to see if we can get a big consortium going, then build that, then evaluate that, and then we've got leverage to go higher. I think at this point we're too small and we're too particular to actually go bothering government just yet. But in time, and if it does evolve into a bigger consortium with multiple parts, that gives us leverage to have a different conversation.
Is SMASHFest a runaway train? Will you ever be able to stop doing it?
I think the legacy of SMASHFest will be with me for the whole rest of my life. I'll probably still be doing it when I'm a pensioner.
Yeah, I feel like I'm doing it in my sleep sometimes. It never leaves me alone. So yes, probably it will be with us. It's a passion. It came from a place, and it still is in a place that we really believe in. We're passionate about it. We're lucky in our positions that it gives us the flexibility in our work life to be able to push on with it. So yeah, I think it'll be with us as long as we're around.
Well, I think
the world is still in one piece until February.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a wonderful project. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mark.